Divorce happens. In fact, it happens to almost 50% of first marriages. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Divorce Happens, a podcast to educate, inspire, support, and yes, make you laugh through divorce and beyond so that you can start fresh on the next phase of your journey. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh.
You get divorced. You get divorced.
Getting divorced?
I'm getting a divorce.
You're getting a divorce.
Because she's getting a divorce.
So what if I get divorced?
Hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the show where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, and a little bit of laughter. Because as you know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. We're here today with one of my favorite segments, which is we get to talk to divorced humans about the things that they've learned from their divorce. And today we have Courtney on the show. Courtney, you want to give us a little intro?
Sure. Hi, I'm Courtney. I have 2 children. They are high school age now, which is crazy because I started this journey almost a decade ago. And I live in New Jersey, and I've learned a ton after my divorce. I have a nonprofit called New Jersey Protective Moms. We mostly focus on advocacy and spreading awareness about family court system and just how challenging it can be. And I also have a business now, Monarch Consulting Group, where I help women who are heading into custody evaluations or protracted litigation, trials, what have you, with documentation.
Amazing. That's, again, turning your lemons into lemonade, a very fresh start approach. Okay, Courtney. So what I always like to say, what are the 3 big things that you took away as a learning from your divorce?
That emotional expectations and legal reality are very misaligned normally. The wheels of justice are truly very slow. And when you say that, think like 10 times slower. We live in a world where it's like instant gratification. So to kind of really accept that reality that this is going to be a really slow process, I think is hard. And I think it sounds cliche, but it does get better. Like this too shall pass really is true. It feels like it's never going to get better. It's never going to change. And it may evolve and you may face some of similar challenges throughout your divorce journey, but things do get better. And each day gets a little bit better, a little bit.
What did you learn about yourself through the divorce process?
Oh, geez. I feel like so much. I mean, it did give me an opportunity to really take a step back and look at what I was doing wrong and areas that I could improve for myself. I think we accept, obviously, when you're getting divorced, you're realizing that you probably stayed in a relationship far too long. You accepted things from your partner that you shouldn't have, and you could have probably handled things a lot differently. So I've really taken that as an opportunity to kind of dig deep and figure out who I am as a person and what I want, because especially when you have kids, it's just like we spend so much time bending into pretzels for our partner and then our kids and our families and grandparents and everyone's expectations of us. So it allowed me to kind of peel back all of that noise when I didn't have my kids and I, had weekends alone, which can be really scary and a lonely time, and dive deep and think about what I wanted to do with my life and who I wanted to be as a person without all the other identity, kind of attached to me. Am I a wife? Am I this person's mother? Am I now an ex-wife? All these things. I just focused on me.
Yeah, I think that's really important to do and really hard, right? When you're going through that time period. So you not only went through your very long divorce battle, would you mind just giving us like a quick overview of what that looked like from kind of a overview standpoint?
Yeah, so I think my divorce was actually, the divorce itself was not that long. It was about 13 months, which in the grand scheme of things, I hear people now where they're like, I filed 3 years ago, and it's just mind boggling to me. It was immediately after the post-settlement judgment or the post-judgment litigation just was incessant. Basically, from day one, there were problems. There were third parties involved. We had a PC right away, which obviously I agreed to, but I could see kind of the writing on the wall. Could read between the lines there. I knew we were going to need someone to help us, and I didn't want to spin my wheels in divorce litigation. That's one thing I will say to people listening. If you have an exit ramp, take it. Obviously, if you can't settle, don't. But if there's something you can live with, do it, because the being in divorce litigation is a really risky place. You're, like, living in ambiguity, I can never say that word all the
Mhm.
time. Um, it's kinda like sitting on the fence. So, I could see that this was gonna be, the issues were gonna extend far beyond what a divorce agreement was gonna bring me, so I knew I had to get out. So we had a PC, and then there was just incessant problems with schedule changes and holidays and, the kids growing up and expressing their opinion and wanting different things, and we were unable to really come to any sort of joint agreement on pretty much anything, so there were lots of problems. So we had a forensic custody evaluation 5 years post-settlement, which is pretty rare, but that's just how kind of our case trajectory took us, and that's what happened. So now we're 3 years post that evaluation, and we've had some ongoing litigation, but, um, it's in a better place than it was, that's for sure.
It's a lot of stress. It really is.
Yeah.
It takes over your entire life. How did you take care of yourself during that time?
I probably didn't, really. I was just trying to survive. We had a near 50-50 schedule. So when I didn't have the kids, I tried to do what I could, rest, relax. I will say, and I say this to all of my clients that I work with and anybody that I know that's going through a divorce, try to stay active and exercise. Exercise has really, honestly, probably saved me from tons of health issues from all the stress. I've always been pretty active, but I really tried to start, going to the gym more regularly, lifting weights. And I know that's all over. People are probably inundated with eat protein and lift weights. It's just one more thing to stress about. But whatever exercise you can find enjoyment in, whether it's walking, walking's
Yeah.
great. It's actually very good for trauma too because of the movement. The bilateral movement is similar to like EMDR in ways. So walking is great. Walking with friends. There's so much research about how helpful that is. So I did Pilates. I did weights, hot yoga. I walked. I tried to really just stay active because a stagnant body and stagnant mind will just wreck you.
Yeah, absolutely. I walked a lot. I would walk every time the babysitter would come, I would head out with my music on and just walk, walk, walk miles, miles. I think it is what saved me in so many ways. Absolutely. So, on the flip side, what were some of the professionals that you worked with that were really helpful to you during that time?
This is always an interesting question to me. And, I get it. There's bad actors out there. And I will say now, looking back, every single professional was helpful to me in a different way. And I always try to say that to clients too. You might not have the best co parenting therapist, you might not have the best PC, but you're going to have to take a really strategic, like, look at them through a strategic lens and try to find how can they help me. And it may not be in the capacity or the way that you think going into it they're gonna be able to help you, but they may be able to help prove we can't have joint services. Like, we can't have a co-parenting therapist. It's an exercise of utility. It's a waste of time and money. All it does is inflame conflict. So maybe it's gonna help prove that to the court. Maybe it'll help you never get co-parenting therapy ordered again. If you can get a professional that will say, I've worked with them for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, they can't come to one joint conclusion together despite 50 different interventions that I tried. So, trying to look at it through a strategic lens, not a black and white or emotional lens. On paper, the therapist may not help you in the way that they ultimately end up in your case. The PC parenting coordinator in New Jersey was ultimately very helpful for me, obviously, because they were able to issue recommendations that I could leverage and use, and if he wasn't complying with recommendations, at least there was some teeth there, and I could use that in court if, God forbid, I had to go back and file a motion or whatever, ended up happening. But you have to really look at the case and your specific set of circumstances and just try to take, like I said, a strategic approach. If you have an attorney, talk to an attorney and be like, "What professional will help me with this specific issue that we can't seem to
Right.
resolve anything because of."
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice. So, how did you end up kind of doing your own advocacy work about this?
So, obviously, just in dealing with the system and talking to other people, you get sucked into a lot of these groups on Facebook and a lot of them are what they call ventilation therapy, where it's just a lot of people venting and no one really coming together and doing anything. So I was in a lot of those, which, there's double-edged sword with everything. And of course, I was in One Mom's Battle, New Jersey, and I saw that there were more individuals in there that were focused on actually coming together and maybe trying to do some outreach or educating their elected officials or trying to spread the word about how challenging things would be. So it kind of just happened naturally. I met a group of other moms who really wanted to try to come together and make a difference in some capacity. And so we formed New Jersey Protective Moms because we were talking to a lot of senators and assemblymen. And we, kind of put our heads together and said, we're going to look a lot better if we have an organization behind us and we're not just a bunch of angry moms.
Mm,
So that's how that started. We had heard that they were trying to pass a version of coercive control in New Jersey, so we got really involved with that. We wanted to see that through the finish line, which it did get passed in 2024. It's not as strong as we would like, but it definitely helps. At least it's in the language of the law now that coercive control is a form of domestic violence, and they have to consider it in certain scenarios in family court. But that's how that all started. It just was really grassroots, organic. And for me, it filled a little bit of that void, that emotional void when I didn't have my kids or I was dealing with a lot of the heaviness of court. It allowed me to take that energy and kind of manifest it into something that could at least help other people.
yeah, I love that. Can you give us one more thing you learned from divorce?
I learned that, so everyone always says document. And again, it sounds cliche, but your case is only going to be as strong as the evidence that you have. So you have to document everything. And someone may never look at your documentation. Someone may not look at it for a year, but you would rather certainly have it all ready and organized because that also helps your credibility. If you go in there and you say all of this insanity because it sounds crazy, the stuff that has gone on, sound like people would look at me and just say, why? There's no good reason why. But the facts don't change that happened. So it was better for me to have the documentation to prove the craziness that went on rather than it just becoming, white noise and becoming, another person in family court that's standing up there saying, he
Right.
called me 50,000 times and wouldn't leave me alone because they hear that all day long.
Right.
You want to have the proof.
Yeah. Really, really good advice. So before we let you go, Courtney, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they are considering divorce or navigating divorce, what would be some words of encouragement you could leave them with?
I always tell people you're not on anyone's timeline but your own. Obviously, if there's physical abuse and safety is a concern, that's different. And I feel horrible for people in those situations. But if you are in a really toxic, unhealthy, emotionally abusive, draining relationship and you feel overwhelmed at the idea of divorce, maybe you're not emotionally ready. And that's a big part of it. So you might have to wait a little while, get your ducks in a row, get everything ready until you can leave. Maybe you want to wait till the kids are older. Again, you're on your own timeline, so try not to put a ton of pressure on yourself because people put so much pressure on themselves. And then I think that just starts this loop of anxiety that makes it worse. So when you're ready to leave, you'll know. And that's when you have to just take action.
Amazing. Can you let people know where the work you're doing in New Jersey, they can find it and support you?
Yes. So we're online, New Jersey, njprotectivemoms.org. You can find me on Instagram. My page is public, Courtney.Gilmartin. And I have a link tree in my bio, so everything's also linked there.
Awesome. We'll put the links in the show notes too. Courtney, we appreciate your hard work and turning that moment into a moment to help so many other people. That's what we're all about here. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Divorce Happens is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the only divorce registry platform for everything you need to begin again, including home items, hype team, and everything in between. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh. We're here to support you before, during, and after divorce. Head to freshstartsregistry.com for more info.